whole purpose of the podcast is to help people live in balance, well-being, and joy. I call this series Uncomplicated because if we know how to put yourself first, create harmony, give back and share, and always keep reaching. Once you have that solid foundation, everything else falls into place. Welcome to the Kamit Podcast, the Uncomplicated series. I'm Doris Bogus, your host, and I want to welcome you along this journey with me. Welcome back to the Kamit Podcast, the Uncomplicated series. I'm Doris B., and Marva Hanks is back with me to talk about the final core Kamit Code principle, which is expansion and growth. And today we're going to explore ways in which we can expand and grow, and we're going to combat fears to change and growth, and we're going to make a plan to incorporate that into your life so that you can live in balance, well-being, and joy. So Marva, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Doris. This series has just been delightful. It's just been delightful.
Well, I appreciate you joining me. You just don't know how great it's been for me to have you here.
Well, when I think about ways to grow and expand, I try to challenge myself to do things that I have vowed to myself were fearful. So I'm afraid of heights, even though I'm 6'5". I'm afraid of heights. So it's a challenge for me to still get on a ladder. More than a 3-step ladder, like get on a ladder to get on the roof to do something, or to get on a roller coaster. Or a hot air balloon, of which I've done all of that, just to fight the fear within me. I try to teach my kids or girls that I may mentor to do it afraid and put the fear behind you and do it afraid. So that's one way that I think about growing and expanding myself, and then challenging myself. We spent time off camera talking about the discipline that I like to study God's word. And so that grows and expands me when I'm given the challenge to forgive something that I have deemed unforgivable, right? Or to dismiss and cast someone into the sea of whatever, someone that, maybe I think has wronged me. And so challenging and expanding my ways, even in this space of how I met our wonderful producer, Walter Johnson Jr. was in a studio space where all different types of creative artists congregate, an incubator of sorts. And so I was in there as a groupie, learning just to hang around the knowledge and the inspiration that they were dropping. And so trying to explore the creative side of myself was the letting go of what I thought that I only identified with sports. So those are different ways that I try to grow and expand myself. Yeah.
And when I think about growth and expansion, I think about, again, it's natural. Everything grows and turns over. Nothing stays the same. Life is dynamic. It's always changing. You think about a butterfly. It started out as one thing and then it's transformed into something else. But I think what holds people back from growth is that there's transformation involved. You're in one state of being, like you said, you're a novice, and now you've got to put the work in to be better at what you do. And so in between transformation and growth is pain, or it could be.
Right.
It just depends on how you look at it. And a lot of times that's fear. It's just fear. And sometimes it's procrastination. And I say fear is masked. And when you pull the curtains back on fear, you find out that, it's like putting light on something. When you go ahead and do it.
It could be pride. It could be anything that holds you back from moving forward.
Exactly. And I say fear can mask its self-doubt. I'm not up to this. This is new for me. Enough. This podcast is new for me. So I have fear, but the more you pull back the curtains on fear and shed light on it and get in there and take action, get in the arena, so to speak, then fear becomes less of a drawback to you expanding and growth.
Interesting.
And then also, some people just say, I'm happy where I am. I don't need to grow.
Right.
I'm happy where I am. They don't feel the need to expand their life.
They live in those same 10 blocks, 10 miles. They're happy. Don't have them go outside of those limits. And
that's a good point. That's one of the parts of this Kamit Code, is to expand your surroundings, your knowledge. I come from humble beginnings, and I think I've been challenged to grow and had to overcome fear And here I am today, I think, in a better place because of it.
Okay. So, but if you were trying to get these principles into someone that you dearly loved, how would you go about that? Because I know we've run the gamut from like boundaries and not forcing someone into something. And so expansion and growth is natural. You said it's in nature, which it's in science. But then if something doesn't grow, then what's the consequence of
The
not growing?
consequences is stagnation, getting left behind. And there's sort of three concepts, I guess, that mask this fear, or people say to themselves to prevent them from growing. And I call it the pretender, the offender, and the defender. The pretender pretends like, oh, I'm just fine. There's nothing wrong. Don't need to grow. Your world might be falling apart over here. You might need to make changes in your health or in some other aspect of your life, but you're pretending like everything is wrong out of fear. Or you're the defender. Why do I need to change? What's wrong with you? Why are you telling me what to do? It's my life. You can't tell me what to do. You're defending your position, right? And then the defender is defending your way of life, and the offender is blaming someone else for it, when it all is just fear. And so I would say, recognize that. And it all comes down to personal preferences and some digging to find out why you are the way you are. And so that's what I like about these commit codes, because it forces you to do some soul searching and self-discovery. So that's what I would say. So
if you were doing this with a case study group, your 4 key principles, the core of these, what would you want them to take away out of a 4-week session if it builds into that? When they do the book and the workbook, what do you want them to take away?
I want them to be able to recognize that, number one, they can live in balance, well-being, and joy, that they now have the tools to do so. This method that I've laid out, self-discovery, identify obstacles, overcome them, make a plan to overcome them, and put that plan into place. It's just a matter of putting in the time. So I want them to take away the fact that they can do it, and they have the tools now to do it, and that's something that they have a birthright to do.
When they are looking at expansion, what if they are comparing? So, right, we talked about that you had a great transformation story in your weight loss story. And so what if 10 pounds was just good enough and you stopped there? What do you say to that person?
Well, I would say that if that's where you are at the time, then that's where you are. But never stop searching to do better or be better or expand your capacity. We talked about capacity and how some of us have different capacities for our tolerance for certain things. But if you're happy with the 10-pound weight loss and that works for you, that's just fine. But know your why. I guess you need to know your why you do things, and if it works for you, it works for you. I'm just saying challenge the status quo, because growth is inevitable. Everything changes. Our spiral of life gets bigger and bigger. And so get on that bandwagon and see what you can do with life.
Well, I'm excited for you, and I'm so grateful. It's been a privilege to be able to be your first guest on your podcast and to get exposed to your 4 key principles.
And I appreciate your insight as well. It's given me food for thought about my own principles. So I appreciate you bringing that out in me, and that's what good dialogue does.
Oh, yeah. We're going to continue this good dialogue and get to know you more on my podcast, the Just Keep Living series with Marva Hanks.
I appreciate it, Marva, and I hope to see you again soon.
You will.
So that wraps up the 4 Commit Codes Uncomplicated series, but we'll be back for more of the Commit Codes and how they can be applied to your life and how you can use them to live in balance, well-being, and joy, and how they will have a positive effect on your life. I'm Doris B., and I'll see you soon. And remember, treat yourself well.